Hi, my name's Danny. I'm an alcoholic. So since Scott didn't do it for you, I would like to very respectfully ask you, could you please put your phones away while I'm talking because it's so distracting to me. I would appreciate that. And I'm sure the people sitting around you would too. Thank you. This announcement was brought to you by Alcoholics Anonymous. I'd first like to start by saying, where you at, Lowell? There he is. Thank you, Lowell, for calling me and asking me to attend. Thank you, Lori, for your vicious hospitality. Thank you, Scott, for your service and your slavery. And Rana, thank you, and Charlie for the wonderful AA talks that you gave last night. And everybody's been very, very welcoming and hospitable. I can't imagine why you would drink living in such a beautiful place. When I said that to someone, they go, Danny, it rains 70% of the year here. So anyway, did I mention that I'm an alcoholic? Did I answer? Okay. I never know what I'm going to say. Something about this not drinking thing, I think. So, I'm an Air Force brat. My father was a colonel in the Air Force, which doesn't make me an alcoholic. I was a middle child. I had two brothers. I was the scapegoat in my family. And I was told a lot that I was a loser and I was never going to be anything. And I was hit a lot. Belt buckles, extension cords. Fear was the common thing in my family. So my first tool for living that I ever had was I wanted out. I wanted out of the car, out of the house, out of my room, out the window, out of this relationship, and away from you, right? And when I was a kid, our family car was a Rambler Ambassador station wagon, right? And the seat in the very back of the station wagon back then faced backwards. They made a movie about it. It's called The Way, Way Back. And whenever the family had to go somewhere, I ran out and got into that seat because if I had to be with you, that's where I want to be. As far away from you as possible and away from Dad's fist that would just fling into the back, right? So I wanted out. Every speaker that I've ever heard in Alcoholics Anonymous, the common thing that I've ever heard is I always felt different. I always felt less than. I never felt enough. And I always wanted a way and out, right? Which is what drugs and alcohol gave me, right? It took me out of right here and right now. So that was my first tool for living was out, right? I remember my first memory was discomfort. I remember I landed on the wrong planet and I'm wearing the wrong Earth suit. And everybody's always mad and irritated and annoyed when I'm around. No one's ever happy when I'm around. And I was never happy to be around. There was this great movie called Barfly with Mickey Rourke and Faye Dunaway. And there's a scene in it where they're sitting at the bar, they're hammered. He's playing Charles Bukowski. And she asks him, she says, people, don't you hate people? And he says, no, but I seem to feel better when they're not around. And that was me. That summed it up. I mean, as a child, before I ever put a drink into me, I always felt better when I was away from you. So out was my first tool for living, and then my next tool for living was I learned that if you hit something hard enough and enough times, it would agree with you or leave you alone. So out and violence, those were my two tools until I took my first drink. I was 12 years old. I was in a dugout in Washington, D.C. My father was stationed at the Pentagon, and I was with these lower companions. And somebody handed me a bottle of Boone's Farm strawberry wine. Oh, yeah. As my sponsor would say, no grapes involved, right? Not a grape in the bottle, right? And they handed me this bottle. Now, I'm not that tall, but I was an extra little dude when I was about 12. And, not feeling funny at all, not feeling engaging at all, feeling pretty stupid and wearing the wrong earth suit. And they handed me this big bottle. Now, to us professional drunkies and junkies, Boone's Farm, not that big of a deal. But to a 12-year-old who's never had a drink, it's like gasoline, right? So I took this bottle and I say, and that thing happened. That thing happened that separates me from the normal person, right? I felt charismatic. I felt handsome, engaging with my new best friends, you know? And the only thing that had changed is that I had taken a drink, right? And I didn't give the bottle back. I drank the whole bottle. And then I don't know how much time went by, but then I started throwing up. You know that kind of throw up that we have, like when you expect to see your socks coming out, throwing up, you know what I mean? Just like, you know, and I remember holding on to the chain link fence in the dugout. I remember thinking, if this doesn't kill me, I'm doing this again. This is it. Oh, I love this. Now, I know about the singleness and purpose of Alcoholics Anonymous. However, the next thing that happened, I had no control of. Somebody handed me a joint. Now, I'm a little older, and the marijuana that we had then isn't like the weed that you have now. You know, now you have like NASA is creating this weed, you know, like where one hit can like cure pancreatic cancer, you know, or something. You know what I mean? Like you're high for 12 years off of, you know, and they have all these different names for it. We had weed where you had to get a shoebox top or a record album and clean the seeds out. I know you're thinking, seeds? Boy, did you get ripped off, right? But that's what we had. Now, whoever handed me my first joint didn't get the memo about the removal of the seeds. So I'm sitting there, and I'm covered. I have really long hair, strawberry puke all over me, and they're passing around. I'm already smoking Camel cigarettes. I already am a professional cigarette smoker. Yeah, we smoked real cigarettes, not the vanilla cup pancake syrup vape thing that you guys are smoking. We were going to get cancer in a manly way, like the Marlboro Man. Yeah, I mean, what is this vanilla? You know, come on. Anyway. So I see this joints going around, but they're not smoking it like a cigarette. They're not, you know, they're but you can't, if you're an alcoholic, you have no self-esteem and this tremendous ego that keeps you from saying, what are you doing? How do you do that? You just have to go, oh yeah, I've done that before. So the joint comes to me and I'm going to take the biggest hit ever taken on a joint since the beginning of time. And the seed pops, sticks to my forehead, and my forehead is on fire while I'm covered in strawberry puke and I'm going, yeah, this is good. This is good. That's my first day getting loaded and I couldn't get enough from that point on, man. That was day one. You know, so here's what's happening at home in the meantime. In the meantime at home, let's see, we moved from D.C., I moved all over the place, Japan, D.C. I don't really know the order. It was kind of blurry. Between the beatings and the running away and the acting out and then the drinking and using, it's kind of blurry. But the best I can remember, I think we moved from D.C. to San Antonio, Texas. My father became the Inspector General for the entire Air Force at Kelly Air Force Base. And I remember when we'd move around, every time we'd move, they would pass out these little index cards. I remember they'd pass out index cards, and they'd say, write down what you want to be. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I'd write, I want to be a baseball player, or I want to be the next John Bonham, right? Who's the drummer from Led Zeppelin. I was given this gift of time. I never took a lesson. I just had it. I was given it. I could play the drums. And that's what I wanted to be. I had dreams, I had goals. I never wrote down, I want to be strapped down to a bed in Thalen's Mental Center with a catheter in me on a 5150. How many people have been on a 5150? All right, thank you for the hand back there. One little kind of hip. Really? The rest of you? Really? Never? Really? A 5150 is a 3-day hold, a 72-hour involuntary hold because you've become a danger to yourself and others. Anybody? There we go. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's what that is. And when you wake up from that, there's a piece of paper, usually on your chest. It says, you have the right to refuse a lobotomy. That's good. You have the right to refuse electric shock treatment, which I'm not ruling out at this point, right? That's a yet for me. All right. So, I forgot what I was talking about. Yeah. I had dreams. I had goals when I was a kid. I was just this kid. I was this scared kid who was being told things like, I was just acting out, they call it, nowadays they call it seeking negative attention, acting out in a dysfunctional family. They didn't have names for it then. You were just a problem. You were a problem and you had to go to like special resource school, and I would run away all the time, and I would end up being in front of people that kept asking me the question that have been asked of us since the beginning of alcoholism. What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Why do you do this? And my answer is, I don't know. I don't know. And in our beautiful book, in the doctor's opinion, it says that when we discover that we have an allergy of the body, it explains a lot. I'm paraphrasing, but it explains a lot. Oh, that's why I did that. That's why I ruined every relationship I ever had. That's why I tore down, on page 82 of our book, it says, the alcoholic is like a tornado roaring through the lives of others. That's why I did what I did, because I'm an alcoholic. But I didn't know that then. Then I was just being told, you're a loser, you're a problem. It's your fault that we have to move. You're never going to be nothing. You're never going to have the capacity to love. You're never going to love another human being. And I set forth on making you right. Oh, yeah? Well, watch this. You're right. And I believed that. Lies. So I'm in San Antonio, Texas. I'm playing the drums, and I'm exploring a lot of other. If you're new to Alcoholics Anonymous, may I welcome you to Alcoholics Anonymous. And no matter, this is just from me, whatever your problem is, I want to tell you, we got a solution for it. We have a solution for you. Even if it's smokable alcohol, snortable alcohol, injectable alcohol, pill form alcohol. To me, it's all anti-Danny medication. It's all made to take me out of right here, right now. Right? Right here, right now, I'm afraid. Right here, right now, I'm comparing how I feel to how you look, and I'm always going to lose. Right? So welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. I started discovering things like, my new drink when I was about 14, 15 became Southern Comfort. Improperly named. No one was ever comfortable when I drank Southern Comfort. The half pint was kind of round, and it fit into my boot when we went to concerts. That's how I picked it, And also, if you ever seen a bottle of Southern Comfort, it's got this ribbed top, so no matter how hammered you are, Stevie Wonder could pick out my Southern Comfort. Just saying. Really? I heard that. Don't judge me. And then I started finding out things like Seconal and Tuinal and Reds, which is just, to me, 2/5 of Gilby's gin in a pill, And a lot of crazy things were happening to me. I was running away all the time. A switch went off in me. My father was hitting me with an extension cord once, and a switch went off in me, and I said, you are never going to see me cry again. Never. I turned to him, and I asked him, does that make you feel good? And I said, no, this isn't happening no more. And I just kept running away, and my family turned their back on me. I was arrested for selling drugs, and they called my home, and my father said, we don't have a son named Danny. And I went and I became raised in courts and reform schools and youth authority and running around. Now I have absolutely no moral compass whatsoever. I have no anchors. I'm just running around with, the bad people are the ones that I was running around with, and musicians. And while I was in reform school, bad people and musicians. They're different. They're different. Musicians are good people. While I was in a reform school, my father became the commander of Clark Air Force Base, and my family moved to the Philippines. So I get out of jail, out of reform school, and I come knock on the door, and there's another family living in my home. So now the people that are supposed to love me the most have thrown me away. So now I never had any use for you anyway, but now I know I don't. And as far as God, there was never any discussion of the power greater than all of us was my Father. There was no spirit or God. And when I used to think, and I would hear people talk about some kind of a God, I used to think, oh, really? I don't need to look very far beyond my life to know that if there's a God, he doesn't think much of me. Because why am I living like this? So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I was playing drums a lot, right? Playing drum music was kind of being the little bit of glue that was kind of holding me together. My drinking was crazy. I couldn't get enough alcohol in me to, you know when you're just spending like hundreds of dollars trying to get to zero, the absence of pain, just to experience that, maybe that 4 minutes in between when you're completely hammered to where you pass out, but just for that 4 minutes you feel, you know what I mean? I see you know what I mean. Yes. If you're new, by the way, when you hear people laugh, that means I did that too. Right. Where's the tweakers at? Where are you at? Tweakers? Oh, yeah. Vacuum in the ceiling, right? Where's the people that went on carpet patrol? Smoking there you go. Yeah, look. Hell yes. Smoking anything that resembled a rock. Drywall, let's give it a chance. Hear the laughter? Oh, yes. Taking things apart, not even broken. And I love the girls on speed that think they look good. They're a size none. Don't get in front of the mirror on that stuff. Oh, no. Ain't it fun to laugh? It's so fun to laugh. They read a little tiny excerpt from my favorite page in the big book, which is 132. We absolutely insist on enjoying life. And if you go down a little further, it says that we think of laughter and cheerfulness is useful. Because if the newcomer came in here and just heard us going, yeah, and then another year went by and I didn't drink. Yeah, and then another year went by and I didn't drink. Now I'm 19 years sober and I'm still not drinking. You're leaving before the miracle. She's like, if I don't leave, there's gonna be, okay. So we gotta have fun. We wanna have fun here. This is the place where there is life outside the bathroom. Remember that? Don't let them go in the bathroom. They never come out. What is she doing in there? She's got projects going on in there. Ain't it good? It's so good. So anyway, here I am. I'm about 18, 19 years old. My family is in the Philippines. I have no moral compass. I have no anchors. I'm connected to no one, but I can play the drums. Now, I don't know about you, but are there any other liars in the house? Charlie? Well, okay. I don't know about you. I used to lie so much. I have fond memories of things that never even happened to me. I used to lie so much. I'd be telling you a story, and in the middle of telling you the story, while my mouth is moving, my brain is going, I don't even know if this really happened, but boy, it gets better every time, But this is the truth of the story. I heard there was an audition for Rod Stewart as a drummer. So I packed all my drums. None of them matched because I got them from a pawn shop. They were like a Frankenstein drum set, And I put them all, in the Greyhound, you lift the bottom up, and that's where all the stuff goes in. And I put them on there, and I went out to this audition for Rod Stewart in Hollywood, right? Gonna be a big star, right? Visions of grandeur. I see myself as a leader of vast enterprises like Bill, right? Oh, yes, owning the world. Of course, I've had some deep conversations on cocaine, haven't you? So I get to Hollywood, and instead of going to the audition, there was an open all-night pawn shop right next to the Greyhound station downtown. So there went my drums. There went my dreams yet again. But I told so many people that I played drums for Rod Stewart that still, to this day, when Hot Legs comes on the radio, I admire my own drumming. I had convinced myself. You know, when the book talks about when you cannot decipher or distinguish the false from the real. And I'd be like, okay, yeah, I have no family, right? You know when you go to Walgreens or Target and you buy a picture frame and there's a picture of these normal-looking people in there? People that, like when you're drinking, you're thinking, I'm never going to be that, right? And because I have no family, I would just keep the people in the pictures up. And I'd put them all over my house. And you know how we lie? You go into a bar, and I'm like a jet pilot in this bar, and a doctor in this bar, and I got to get it straight. Who am I in this bar? And all these people, I had to write on the back of the picture frames the fake names that I had given them. This is my uncle. This is Harry and his wife Judy and their daughter, and terrible things would happen to them so that I could get sympathy. People come over and they'd be, what's wrong? So I could get a drink or a free drug. I'd be like, oh man, Judy, she had cancer, and I killed Judy. But I had to remember and write them down so that I could remember what was happening to these people. That's what a liar I was. I don't forget that. So anyway, I didn't play drums for Rod Stewart, and my drums went into the pawn shop, and it was a long, long time ago, and I was running around the streets of Hollywood, and I knew I had to pick something that I had to do besides just to drink. So I picked, it was either electrical or plumbing, and I got into the electrical business. I'm still a union electrician, a foreman electrician, and then I became from drumming to a singer. I still play music. I sing. I have a working band. So I walked into this bar in Hollywood, and there was this woman. Remember how beautiful the bar was? I mean, when you walk into the dark, I like the dark dive bar with the colored top shelf bottles on the shelf. They're so sexy. They look like a bunch of little burlesque girls, the shapes of them and everything, and they just make them so attractive. And I was just staring at the bottles, and in walked the new bartender for the shift, who looked like a young Marilyn Monroe. I mean, so beautiful. And that woman taught me how to drink 2/5 of Gilby gin before breakfast. And she taught me exactly what to eat with it, so I wouldn't ruin my buzz, but I wouldn't throw up. No one had ever showed me that. I admired that. So I married her. I did. And that crazy relationship. In 1985, unfortunately, she was killed on the back of a Harley Davidson, and I was running around, and lots of ups and downs, but mostly down. I ended up in San Francisco, in the Tenderloin of San Francisco, ending up going back to more wine without grapes. I made a full circle, where somewhere in the middle, I was in a hot tub with maybe 8 girls and a 1/4 ounce of cocaine. But somewhere at the end of my story, I ended up back to all I could do was panhandle 79 cents to get a short dog, which is a small bottle of Night Train or MD 2020. I was 22 years old. I was wearing everything I owned. I had holes in all my teeth. I had mats in my hair. I didn't have a single soul to talk to. I knew no one. The only human contact I was having was when people would kick my feet to wake me up from a doorway that I was sleeping in on Market Street, or when the police, when the police have you right here and they have to pat you down like this, and then they have to somehow get your hand from here to here. Boy, I hated that. Sometimes my drunken brain would show up and go, maybe I don't feel like going to jail tonight. Boy, I hated when that guy showed up, But that was the only human contact I was having, right? There was no hugging, there was no loving, there was no kindness, right? The only discussion in my mind or to anybody was, do you know where I can get a drink, drugs, or money, or anybody that can give me those things If not, please move out of the way. That was it. And the only two things that I could do to get loaded, but once in a while I'd get a hold of a little tiny bit of money when I would steal it or do something wrong to get the money, sell my body, steal something, things like that. I would check into a hotel, and I would just check in there just to have a nervous breakdown off the street. And I remember looking at myself. I hated myself in the mirror. I would break the mirror, I would soap the mirror, or the medicine cabinet always had to stay open. I just hated my own image. I never thought much of myself most of my life. And then at this point, I thought low self-esteem was a goal for me because I had none, you know. And I just remember when I would come out of a blackout, or when I would come out in a 5150, and I was so disappointed that not only was I still alive, that I was still me. I hated being me. I remember sleeping in Civic Center Park in San Francisco, and I would think I would trade places with any single person in a wheelchair. I don't care. I would like to be anything other than who I am. And that's what drinking did for me. It enabled me for moments at a time to feel like something other than what I was a worthless, destroyed, broken shell of a person. So the only thing I could do to get a drink at this point in my life was either I would time it at the liquor store, where the guy would turn his back and I would run to the shelf, because they kept MD 2020 and Night Train didn't have to be refrigerated because there was no grapes in it, right? So I would just steal it and run out. And the other thing I would do, back then, you could smoke in the bar. And did you know that there are people that don't finish their drink? Did you know that? I'm talking to you with the glasses. Did you know that? Scott and I were talking about, you ever go out and drink with a normie? And you sit there and you watch their drink all night. They're like, you've been sitting there with them for an hour and it's still got this much, and you're like, are you gonna finish that? There are people in bars that will take their cigarette back then and throw it into the drink. Alcohol abuse, right? And the cool thing was, I would go into the bar with two big pieces of Tupperware, right? Had to be two that fit into each other. This is keen alcoholic thinking here. And you go, you know that magical place in the bar where the brass rail things are, where the waitress goes to get service? It's a magical area at last call. Because if you wait there, this wonderful human being will go out into the bar and bring the unfinished drinks right to you. It's amazing. You just sit there, and she'll go out, and she'll bring them back, and you'll take all these unfinished drinks, and while she goes out for her next little launch, I'd dump them all into my Tupperware, right? Even the ones with the cigarette butts. And then I would go, oh, look at some people. Look, isn't that funny? How many people snorted drugs off of a public bathroom before? Look, but isn't it funny when we get sober, we're like, oh, is that filtered water? Excuse me, is that gluten-free? Oh, screw you, man. It's funny, you know. We'll take stuff, we'll meet a person we've never met before behind a Chevron station in an alley, go home and without doing tests, but then we get here and we're like, well, I have a real problem with trust. I don't think so. Apparently not. I don't know about this trusting God thing, man. I don't know, man. I don't know. You know. Let's not forget who we are. So I'd go out in the back of the bar. I'd go out in the back of the bar, and I would take the empty one, take my T-shirt, strain it over the empty one, and pour all the stuff in there. Huh? Genius. Now, some people call that pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I call it a Long Island tea. Is this for me? Thank you. Slancha. And that's the only thing that I could do to get that and beg for change. That's where I became. That's where I got. That was my best thinking. My best thinking got me into mental centers, almost killed, beat up by cops every other night. kicked in the head while I was sleeping in the street, disowned from anybody, ruined everything I ever tried. That was my best thinking. If my brain could not be attached to me, I'd have done a lot better in my life, you know. My brain was out to get me. So anyway, there I am in Civic Center Park, 22 years old, wearing everything I own with holes in all my teeth, and I'm hiding in a phone booth. Did you know that we used to have phone booths? We did. We had these machines where you could go and put money in and call other people. Is that crazy? And guess what would happen, Amelia, if they weren't home? The phone just rang and rang and rang. They didn't even know you called. They were out eating their food, not taking pictures of it, making people look at it. And guess what? If you wanted to see Charlie's cat sleeping, you had to go in Charlie's house to see his cat. A little Facebook joke there. So I'm hiding inside of a phone booth. You know, it was one of those phone booths that's like a spaceship, kind of like hovering off the ground. And I was hiding in there, and the truth was because I couldn't look at you. I could not look you in the eye. I was staring at my shoes for years because I look at my feet. Because if I looked at you, you would know what a horrible piece of worthless crap that I was. That's the truth. And so I was just hiding in there. And while I'm hiding in there, there was this sticker on the telephone. It said, I always remembered in the movie guy voice, got a drinking problem? Call 1-800-Alcoholics Anonymous. Starts everywhere Friday. So I called this number, and you could call Colette. And I could still hear her voice. And,
Alcoholics Anonymous, this is Judy. Can I help you?
and the only thing that I could say at this point, I'm not in charge of the machine anymore. All I could say was, yeah, I'm broken. And finally, she got my name out of me. And she said, do you think you can make it to Bush and Goff Street to a meeting? Now, if you don't know San Francisco, here's Civic Center Park. Bush and Goff is up here. And if you're an alcoholic, and at the other end of this strip, there's not a drink, that's a long, long, long way. Long way. It's funny, I'll roller skate in the rain for a drink, you know? There are guys that I sponsor. There's a dude that I sponsor, right? We went through his 9th step. This guy owed an amends because he climbed up a 9-story apartment building and stole a 63-inch plasma TV, wrapped it in a sheet, and climbed down with one arm to go buy himself a teener. Proud of himself. But when I ask him to get on one bus to go 1 mile to get to a meeting, oh, dude, bro, really, bro? Think of the stuff that you have done. It's amazing how sometimes, and as Scott Redmond said, I judge no man. It's amazing how sometimes AA gives us this big life that gets in the way of being of service to AA. Thank God when I got here, there were people that had came here before me that were still here, that were happy to give me what they had. And I didn't know what they had. All I knew was I didn't want what I was getting no more. That's what I knew. And so I go up to this meeting, right? I get up to this meeting, and my brain is trying to talk me out of going to this meeting a million times. My brain's just telling me, dude, you need a drink. You're going to need a drink to go in there. But I have no way of getting a drink, and I really didn't have the verve anymore to run. I was 22, I looked like I was 50. I was, wino color, iodine color, right? And I walk into my first meeting of, by the way, I had been in front of a lot of therapists and a lot of professional people who would talk to me about my so-called problems. No one ever mentioned to me that I should quit drinking. I've never heard of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I walk into my first AA meeting, and the first thing that happened, this big, giant, where's our speaker that's tonight? Is he in the room? Where's Jack? Are you here, Jack? Jack's not here. You know how big Jack is? There was this guy as big as Jack that came running at me, and I thought, uh-oh, I've been here before. But this guy, some people, they get sober to hug. They love to hug. And when you're a dude and you first come into AA, there's not a lot. We're not coming from places where there's any hugging going on. There's no loving. We're just fighting all the time. That's all we're doing. This guy comes up to me, and I'm like, I look like like a parking meter. You know what I mean? I'm like, and I'm like, don't do it. And he picks me up and he goes, I love you. And he puts me down, and I go, don't ever do that again, man. And he's like, whatever. And he picks me up again. This guy was like nose guard professional football big, just an eclipse. They were completely powerless, right? Put me down, and then the next thing that happened was this little lady came over. She was like a mom, right? She's like this little mom. She had this little Florence Henderson hairdo. Google it. And she came over. All she was missing was a plate of chocolate chip cookies, man. She came over to me, and I was just standing there afraid, not expecting, what to expect, and she put her arms around me, and she said, I'll never forget these words. She said, you never have to feel like you're feeling anymore if you don't want to, and you don't have to do to yourself what you're doing. And I shattered. I shattered like a piece of glass, man. The puddle formerly known as Danny D. I couldn't even hug her back. And I kept going to that meeting. I'd come in there every night. I think 4 nights a week there was a meeting. And I'd walk in, and that big dude would run over. Whatever he was doing, he would be talking to people, would see me, make it in, hold on, and he'd come running over. And I'd be like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Boom, I love you. I told you not to do that, And I came in there every night, he would do that. And then after 30 days, I came in one night, and he didn't come running over. He just stood there talking to people. And I was like, I started liking this. I started liking this foreign feeling called kindness and love. And now I don't care. Big dudes hug me now, I just lift my leg. You know what I mean? I'll nuzzle, I want every single person in this room to come up and give me a hug, especially the big dudes. Don't pick me up because I have back problems. Don't give me one of those dude hugs where you go wham, wham, wham. Just give me a nice hug, because Alcoholics Anonymous has afforded me to become the gentle, kind, loving human being that I was always meant to be, that I've been in conflict with all my life. Right? These 12 steps that I'm going to get to, AA didn't teach me how to be spiritual. I believe that I landed on this planet and was born spiritual, but I also believe that I adopted an ego and a self, which is fear, which separated me from that, right? And that AA has given me these 12 steps that precisely show me how I can break down self, how I can break down the ego, how I can tear down fear and overcome fear. And without fear, all there is love, my higher power, the very thing that's floating through us all right now. I know you feel it. I feel it. It's the buzz. I know if you're new, I know you didn't like the little bitty baby buzz. Right? You never went to the bar and said, give me something that's going to mildly affect me. No. Right? Barely able to speak. Okay, I can see you've had enough. You want the big buzz. The big buzz around here, if you want the big buzz, this is it. You feel it? The big buzz is you go reach into hell and you pull somebody out. Right? Where is that gal that spoke at that Denizens meeting yesterday? Are you still in the room? Are you in the room? Where are you? The one that goes on panels and goes to the institutions. She's not here. She's here? That buzz that you were talking about. It's that buzz. This is the buzz. When you're sitting across from somebody who all they've ever felt was hopeless, and you see that glimmer of light go across their eyes, where they get that word comes into the back of their brain. Maybe. Because all my life, all I ever heard was never, nothing. It's never going to happen to me. Oh, you're going to get to have a wife. You get to have a job. You get to have a beautiful wife and a child. You get to have a job. You get to have a car. You get to know what it feels like to feel good. I will never, ever feel like that. So what's the use? What's the use? And I'll remember, and that's the big buzz around here, is when you can help somebody else catch that little glimmer of hope, And I'll never forget where, I'll get there. I'll get there. I know I skip around a little bit. Let's see how I'm doing on time. Good. Okay. So I was going to my first meetings in AA, and I'd like to say that I stayed sober from that point on. I couldn't do it. I didn't know how to do it. I had yet been beaten into that state of reasonableness that they talk about. So I had to keep going out. And then in 1985, I started 8 years of I sponsor myself. You guys ever seen those kind of people? You know those kind of people? No steps, no book, no bouncing your thoughts or ideas off of somebody else. You've seen them. They're usually at the meeting with like a big rope of a vein right here on their forehead, and they're like, "Do you want what I have?" And you're like, "No, you go ahead and keep that. Go ahead. You miserable, Because what a good definition of a sponsor is finding somebody who has what they want. Seeing somebody like Lowell. Somebody who seems to be, Lowell, to me, if I came to this group, I would think, well, there's a guy I want to sponsor me. That guy seems like Bill, right? Is it Bill or Bob? Bob. There's a guy who looks comfortable standing where he's standing, doing what he's doing with the people around him. How do you do that without a pitcher of margaritas, right? Remember the first time you ever walked into a meeting and there's greeters on either side of the door and there's no other way in? Right? And they're expecting you to chit-chat. What? I'd driven up to my home group many times and thought, not tonight. You know what I mean? Because I can't do that. You can't do that. It's the same thing. It's tough. Remember in 7th grade or 9th grade, we had this dance, right? It would be in a hall like this. I don't know if they still have dances at junior high schools and stuff. But back in my time, when we'd fire up the old cassette player or the 8-track, all the dudes would be on one side and all the girls would be on the other, right? And you had to take this long walk. I don't know if you know, being a girl, what this is like. For us, we have to walk all the way over with everybody watching, thinking, I'm going to go do one of the toughest things I've ever done. I'm going to go ask a girl if she'd like to dance with me. I'm putting myself out there. Am I good enough? Am I good enough? Am I good enough for you to be seen with me in front of all these people and go do this? And as I'm walking across, I'm thinking, she's going to say no. She's going to say no. She's going to say no. And you get over there and you go, hi. Would you like to dance? And she says, I don't like this song. And then there you are with the loser balloon walking all the way across, right? Everybody, yeah, I knew. And then you see her out during the same song that she didn't like to dance with you with some jock with big Anchorman teeth, right? And being, of course, the loser that I am, I have to go out onto the dance floor in front of them and go, I thought you said you didn't like this song. Story of my life. So now I get up here to AA, and I got to walk in this meeting where these people, they look like the guy on the Extends commercial, they're all smiling, and they're all, the people, the greeters that want to greet you 10 feet before you're even in the room. Hi, how you doing? You got a sponsor? You got a step? Like, Jesus Christ, come on, take it easy. I'm just trying to keep from killing myself or 4 other people right now, you know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to man up, with the people. I remember going through when there's greeters, but you can't talk to them, you just go, like that, you know what I mean? I would do that. So, so I had 8 years of untreated alcoholism. No sponsors, no steps, no books, no nothing. Just untreated alcoholism. Crazier than any other newcomer in AA. Crazy. Fighting, punching people, dudes all the time, being violent, not changing my life whatsoever. And I was going to drink eventually, right? I needed some kind of relief. I either needed a relief in the form of a psychic change, a change in perception, or I needed a drink. One of the two was going to happen. And the first one, it seemed like it took a long time. So when I had 8 years, I drove my Harley Davidson to a meeting. I parked it in the doorway. I dared anybody to come near it. And I was one of these really big dudes. When a guy's like so big, the only person that thinks he looks good is like another big dude. You know those guys? You know what I'm talking about? Like, how you doing? Yo, Adrian, you know what I mean? Like to brush my teeth, I had to put my head down here because my arms would run in. I was just like this Neanderthal, you know? And I was crazy, you know? And I stood up in this AA meeting, and I took a medallion, and I told AA, you didn't work. I told them, you're a bunch of... You know, when you go on social media and you look at people that talk about us like we're a cult or there's something like, because they have no idea, that's what I thought. I knew nothing about AA. I didn't know anything about the steps. I had no idea. What AA was the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, what we're named after, Alcoholics Anonymous. I never read it, never even opened it. I don't even think I had one, right? I would just go to meetings and ask girls if they would like to go for coffee. You know what that means, right? And I went out that night and I smoked some weed and I took a drink, and for 15 years I couldn't get sober again. Lots of terrible, terrible, terrible things happened to me. And I mean, right off the bat, I think during the OJ trial, I jumped off of a gate while I was drunk after a gig because my boots were bothering me, barefoot, and I shattered both of my heel bones. And stuff like that. Just crazy stuff was happening, ruining the best band that I was ever in my life. And I wanted to be sober. Every day I would get up and I would think, today is the day I'm not going to take a drink. Okay, today's the day. And I'm gonna go back to a meeting and I'm going to put my hand up and I'm going to try. And an hour later, I'd be at the liquor store, completely powerless, against my will. Don't go in the liquor store. Just don't go in. Damn it, I'm in. Don't go to the don't go get a Corona. Don't go, oh my God, I got a Corona. Don't buy a half pint of Southern Comfort. Don't do that. I can have a half pint of Southern Comfort. Yeah, don't. Okay, look, we'll just put it in the house, but we won't open it. It'll just be there just in case. And half an hour later, it's gone and I'm walking back. And every day. So I would go in and out of AA. And sometimes I was greeted with, is there a circle and a triangle on the podium? Is there one? No. So if you're new, we have this symbol that we say we adopted it in 1955. It's just a nice word for we stole it, right? Like I adopted your girlfriend or I adopted your car. You know what I mean? There's this ancient symbol. It's a circle with a triangle in it. You see, we have a lot of stuff. A lot of people are wearing it. It's mind, body, and spirit. Therein lies the whole human being, seeking the balance that most of us have never had. And in 1955, we changed that to unity, recovery, and service. Fellowship, right? So the first side of the triangle is unity. Unity is the body. I bring it to a meeting. Unity is the body. I bring it here. I can't stay sober, but for some reason, we seem to be able to, right? Recovery is of the mind. I have to work the 12 steps. I have to get comfortable sober. So I work the 12 steps, and having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, I get to close the triangle, and I get to be of service and ask you, how can I help, right? So at this point in my life, I was down. I was really down. I knew that there was another way. I had been to meetings, thousands of meetings. I always sat in that meeting. Some meetings, they read the promises. You guys do that up here sometimes? They would read these promises. And I remember they would get to, are these extravagant products? Are you kidding me? Well, when's the unicorn going to walk in? I will know and comprehend the meaning of peace. Oh, really? I'm not going to regret the past? That's going to happen? Never. That is never going to happen to me, ever. Never. So I was living with this girl named Vicky Smart. And Vicky was like about 12 years sober at the time. And for some reason, she let me live with her. And I had my dog, Brooklyn, and a typical day for me at this point was about 10 king-size Coronas, 40 Klonopin, a quarter ounce of Kush, and anything else I could get my hands on, trying to get to zero. And Vicky would pull around every night while I was sitting on the stoop, drinking my Coronas, and she would go, I'm going to a meeting tonight, Danny. And I'd go, I don't want to go to that AA, bunch of lip flapping, joining, book thumping, blah, blah, blah. And she'd go, okay. She'd drive away. One night she pulled around and she said, Danny, you can stay living in my house if you want. You can keep sleeping in my bed. I'll keep feeding your dog. I'll wash your clothes. but you will be going to a meeting tonight or that ends. So guess what happened? I got in the car, right? Got in the car. She takes me to this meeting. It's called Rodeo, right, in Beverly Hills. This is when Rodeo was still on Rodeo. So imagine this meeting about 7, 8 times bigger than this, right? And everyone's doing better than you, right? They all have veneered teeth, Dolce, Gabbana, Prada, Jimmy Choo, right? And they're just all wonderful, right? And there I am with my loser balloon, right? And things are happening to me as I'm coming in and out. By the way, I'm coming in and out of AA, and I remember what I was talking about. I was talking about unity. See, my job as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, hopefully, as a good member of Alcoholics Anonymous, is for me to create unity. Whenever I come in, not just here, everywhere, right? You've heard it said, AA is what I do in between meetings. That's what Ron and I were talking about this morning. We were talking about, what do you do? What kind of work do you do? Well, I'm in AA. I happen to do electrical work and sing when I get a chance, but my job is AA. And wherever I'm at, hopefully, I try to connect with another human being. It can be easy as smiling at you. Let's do it. Ready? See, I just connected with you. I never smiled to a dude first. Sitting in a meeting, a guy would lock eyes with me too long, I'd be like, what? You know? Now I get to be the first guy that smiles. Hey, how's it going? It's so effortless. Being kind is so effortless, and it feels good for a long time compared to that, when you're pissed off and you're mad and you got to, satisfy your ego for 20 seconds and then feel like crap for 4 days behind it, So my job, hopefully, is to make somebody feel a part of, and when I go to a meeting and I go put my keys on the seat and I go find the dude that's furthest from the door out there by himself, and I walk up to him carefully, and, It talks about it in page 91 of Working with Others. It says, see your man alone. It doesn't say, when someone walks in and they're coming back from a relapse to go, how many days do you have now, Danny? That would happen to me. And it made me feel not a part of it. That's called division. It made me feel embarrassed and humiliated. It made me feel like I'm not welcome here anymore. And the only thing that left that's going to help me, And I walk up to a guy and I go, hey, man, how you doing? You got a seat? Would you like a cup of coffee? Right? Am I perfect at that? No, but I'm a lot better than I used to be, right? And it feels good. I like connecting. It's easy to connect with people. It's so easy. I avoided it most of my life. So Vicky one night, she tells me, she takes me to Rodeo. So there I am in Rodeo at this humongous meeting. When you're new, do you remember going to, when you go to these big meetings and it's really social, and right before the meeting starts, there's 400 people talking all at the same time? Right? And you're new, and you're just like, oh. But you're like, if you're a dude, you ever see these guys? I was this guy. The guy that shows you his neck? You know this guy? Right? It's like, what's going on inside? It's like, I'm really scared. I wish I could ask somebody for help, but I don't know how to do that, so stay away. Stay away. And it's just overwhelming. And I try to remember that that's what it feels like being new. When you see somebody over there going, hey, how you doing, man? You know anybody here? Well, I'm Danny. You can't say that anymore. Welcome. Well, new people come and, they don't come back, and you never hear anybody go, I went to my first meeting and I heard this speaker throw down. He was throwing fire from the podium and it touched my life and I never drank again. No, I usually hear things like, I went back the next week and the greeter remembered my name. These tiny little things that have fundamentally significant experiences for people, these tiny little things. To remember your name, to save you a seat, little things like that. Give you a cup of coffee. So, I was sitting in this meeting, and it's about where, where this big guy is on the aisle right there, that big guy. I want a hug from you. Oh, yeah. I was sitting out there, and this guy Earl was giving a talk. I'd never heard him. I'd never heard of him. I never heard him. Because I was going to meetings during that 8 years. I would get to the meeting late, and I would leave because I didn't want to talk to you. And I would leave the meeting early, and I would just go there to ask you, would you like to get a coffee? That was the only reason I was going. So I didn't care what the speaker had to say. I wasn't on my quest for, I had never conceded to my innermost self that I really was one of you. I thought it was just a phase I was going through, and I had a reservation to always take another drink one day. So I wasn't paying attention. I didn't care. I didn't care about what you had because I didn't want it. I knew one day I was going to drink again. So this guy, Earl, was talking, and I was sitting there, and it was like he started talking straight to me. You know when you have that experience, it's crazy, right? Crazy. The first time that you identify with another person's feelings and you connect, it was the first time I ever heard a man talk the way he was talking, I knew he had felt like I felt, and I knew that he believed in something. And that word happened. Maybe I don't have to die. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can get sober. Maybe it can happen for me. It was a tiny little word, but I heard it. Maybe. So I walked up to him after the meeting and I said, this is a tough question right here, right? Will you sponsor me? Once again, would you like to dance? I didn't want him to go, I don't like this song. You know what I mean? He said, be happy to. And we started this process together. For 15 years, that man never gave up on me. For 15 years, that man would come and see me in places like Glendale Adventist Hospital. On my last 5150, I was always held down against my will and given a shot, right? I fought to the bitter end. I heard this great Al-Anon speaker say once, I never let go. The only time I let go was to get a better grip. That was me. Whenever I was put on a 5150, there were cops spreading my fingers apart, right? Holding my face. I bet you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Something tells me, brother, right? Yeah. I would fight entire sheriff departments. They'd have to wrestle me down to get me onto that needle in me to stop me because I was just psychotic. And I came out of my last 5150 wearing my little robe and my catheter in me, got my uniform on, my alcoholic uniform. And this woman, there's this process. It's a whole different vibe when you wake up. When you went into it, it was really not good. But when you come out of it, the room's usually a pastel color. There's a nice person now talking to you because they've got you, mellowed out. And this woman is going to take the catheter out. And she decides this is a good time to talk to me about my alcoholism. She knows that she's got my attention, right? And she says, Danny, have you ever thought, she's holding on to me, getting ready to, there's a little ball in there that keeps the catheter from coming out, and she's getting ready to deflate the ball. But before, she knows I'm hanging on every word. She says, have you ever thought about going to AA? I said, I promise you, this is what happened. I go to AA, I have the best sponsor in the world, his name is Earl. At that exact moment, Earl walks in the door and says, and aren't I doing a fine job? Swear to God. True story. True story. That was my last 5150. Now, I had been to thousands and thousands and thousands of meetings. Never, ever, ever, never felt a part of, And like I said, Earl never gave up on me. Earl never said, listen, you haven't called me in 2 weeks, so I'm firing you. Firing? I didn't know there was money changing hands. I thought our job was to extend the hand only, right? Right? I have heard some places where they'd say certain people aren't allowed in AA. Well, I also have seen this card on the literature table that says, I am responsible when anyone anywhere needs help. And I know the definition of anyone. It's everyone. It's everyone. Because what if they gave up on me, right? And this one man didn't give up on me. He waited in line at the LA County Jail for 7 hours to see me for 4 minutes. He didn't tell me about AA. He showed me AA. He showed me. He demonstrated to me that he loved me. Year after year after year, he would save me a seat at his meeting, and he'd let me know, Danny, there's a seat for you if you want it. He didn't say, go set up the chairs. He said, come on, let's put away the chairs. Let's put away the chairs. So I had been to thousands of meetings, right? Thousands of meetings. Never, ever, ever felt a part of the group. So one night, I'm sitting at my home group, right? Well, I got out of I did a little government paid for vacation. And while I was gone, Earl moved from the west side to the valley. Oh. So I had to go to the valley because that's where Earl was. That's where my only anchor in life was, right? So I go over there, and Earl's attending this meeting. It's this really cool meeting called the Sherman Oaks Good Old AA Group, the greatest Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, right? And do you guys have these participation meetings, like the participation meeting like you have where you can't raise your hand? You have to be called on. Do you have a meeting like that? It's a great place to get a resentment. Oh, really? You got to be called on? Got to be in your little clique, huh? Got to wear a skirt if you get up in front of the group, huh? Got to wear a tie, huh? You know, it's funny, the beast is the greater aspect of my disease is the beast, the mental obsession, which is looking for the difference between me and you all the time. That's why they tell you if you're new, look for the similarities, not the differences. Because you'll walk in and your brain will go, I've never worn a sweater vest. Maybe I'm not an alcoholic. You know? The only way, I don't care if you're a 400-pound lesbian sumo wrestler, I can identify with you. Because, hey, where you've been and what you look like doesn't matter. I bet you felt less than. I bet you felt miserable. I bet you felt hopeless. And now what do we have in common? Hope. Hope. It's the feelings, man. I've always been a feelings person. The fact may be one thing, but if it feels bad, it's bad. You know? So I got to hook onto the feelings. I need to find a way in, you know? The first name of our book, it was going to be called A Way Out. And my brain was always looking for a way out. You got to find a way in. Remember, brain broken. Bad brain. Bad. Bad brain. You got to talk to it like a dog that just peed on your carpet. Bad brain. Bad. Bad. Remember Scotty Redmond used to say, if you're new and you got a plan, tell us about the plan. If you're sitting here and you're new and you're having an idea, call your sponsor and tell them of your idea. If you sponsor people, you don't even need to have cable anymore. If you sponsor enough people, you could put it on speakerphone and get some ice cream or something up and go ahead, tell me about it. Hey, honey, come in. Billy's going to call. This is going to be great. Oh, I know. Oh, yeah, you just met her Tuesday, but you're feeling a connection and you're going to move in with her? Awesome. It'll work out. You got to get a sponsor, you know, so you can call him and go, hey, Earl, I'm thinking about moving in with Debbie. What do you think? And Earl says, oh, Debbie? Oh, you mean the one when you broke up with her last time? She broke the windshield of your truck, put a garden hose in it, turned it on, and let it on for 8 hours? That's probably not a good idea, Danny. Oh, thanks, girl. Bad brain. Bad. Bad brain. People go, hey, was that some kind of brainwashing? Thank God, yes. Boy, does my brain need to be washed. It's been soaking in alcohol all its life, and it's still not clean. So I've been to thousands and thousands of meetings and never felt a part of, never, ever, never, right? So I'm sitting in my meeting, home group, where there's a 10-minute lead, right? And then you have to be called on. And I'm thinking, boy, I hated everyone in the meeting. I couldn't stand them all. The only one I liked was my sponsor. The only one I think cared about me was my sponsor. And you know, when you are a leader, and when you go to these meetings and they go, hey, would you lead today? But listen, whatever you do, don't call on because they're nuts. And they'll take 22 minutes of the meeting up, right? And you'll never get them to sit down. I became the guy not to get called on at my home group. Unbeknownst to me, I was the angry guy that Earl sponsored, right? People were just afraid to come to me. I so didn't want to piss anybody off. I knew it was my last chance. And people were so nice, but I was just so uncomfortable, you know? So uncomfortable, you know? The feelings that I had been drinking over for years and years and years, I would only allow them to get about here and I'd push them away. And now they're all coming up, you know what I mean? And you're just sitting there and they're going, how you doing? Fine, you know? Fine. Don't say anything to piss off Earl's friends. Just sit there. And people will be like, leave him alone, you know? You know, and let's remember when we see these people that's what they're going through, and probably all they need is a little gentleness and a little kindness. That's it. Like Otis said, try a little tenderness, right? Yes. Oh, come on. Listen to this beautiful group in Portland. My first time to Portland, man. What a beautiful place, man. Man, I'm coming back. Oh yeah, so I'm sitting there, and the woman that is leading the meeting, remember, I've been to 1,000 meetings, never felt a part of any single one of the meetings I've never been to, ever. All I would sit there and think is, never, screw you, book thumper. You know when you sit in the back of the room, and everybody's got a name, but it's not their name? Book thumper, phony, you know. Boy, remember these people? My name is, I'm an alcoholic, and my problem is Jim. Oh, yeah. My name's Danny, and my problem is Jim, too, all right? How about this? I'm a grateful alcoholic. Oh, I get it now. But when you're new, and the brain just wants to hook onto that and go, well, there's a reason not to be here. Well, that's a perfect reason to go to the liquor store right now because of Jim. Screw Jim. Jim. Bam, right? Yeah? Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, we got to get the ending on 5 minutes. You got to get the 79 minutes in. Thank you. 5 minutes. Okay. So anyway. Thank you. So this is how I joined AA. I joined AA like this. I'm sitting there with all these people, and I know none of them care about me. And the woman goes, would you like to share? And I turn to Earl. He's sitting next to me. I go, can I say whatever I want? He goes, go ahead. And I go, you know what? You're all a bunch of... And in fact, if I was on fire right now, I'm sure nobody in here would even pee on me. And this woman, 2 rows behind me, she goes, I'd pee on you, Danny. And that's what happened. The whole room laughed, and guess who else laughed? I laughed for the first time in my life. The chip on my shoulder that I've been carrying around on my shoulder fell off. I sat there and I was like, I want to be in AA. Man, I want to be in AA. I want it. I can do it. The maybe turned into yes, I can do it. Suddenly there was like a varsity cheerleader team. Go, Danny, go. You can do it, right? And after the meeting, you know, my sponsor was like the president in AA. You know what I mean? It's like so hard to talk to him. And I'm waiting for the people to move away so I can run up to him and go, dude, tell me what to do. Like the Labrador with a tennis ball. What do you want me to do? Hey. And he goes, he sees there's a guy, with the tattoos all over his face. He goes, see that guy right there? Go say hi to that guy. And I'm like, in my brain, I think, dude, look at him. But I magically turned into Forrest Gump. I just go, okay. And that's what AA has done. It changed my attitude. I finally conceded to my innermost self. Yes, I'm one of you. Yes, I want this thing. I've been beaten into that state. I've contrary actions. I have worked the 12 steps. I have felt this amazing thing that has happened to me. The man that stands here before you is not the man that came to AA. I smell different. I look different. I taste different. I am different. I think differently. I look at things just from over here most of the time. And I get to have a beautiful, wonderful experience. And I'll close with one of my favorite stories about my sponsor, right? Well, I got like 3 minutes, 2 minutes? 3. It's like a DMV test. F. Okay. So my scariest thing, you have to face, now my sponsor fell out of the sky from an airplane and faces his fears 10 times a month and gets on an airplane. So most of the time, he doesn't know this. I don't think you're ever going to hear this. I thank my sponsor and pay my sponsor a debt to my sponsor, the late, great Donald Madden, Norm Alpe, Chuck C., and Bill W., my lineage, in ways that they'll never find out about because I owe. Right? And I would think every day, if Earl can get on an airplane, then I can do this, And my biggest fear was walking through that group with greeters. And I made the mistake of saying to Earl one night, boy, that greeter thing, man, sucks. And he goes, that looks like a good commitment. And my sponsor translator said, get that commitment or die, right? So I'm the greeter at this meeting, and people started getting to know me. It became my home group, right? And then the IRS came in and took all my money because I never paid my taxes. And I'm sitting in my room. I'm speeding this story up, right? I'm sitting in my room, and I'm sitting there, and the only thing I believe in is that Earl believes, and I'm not feeling the gift of the miracle yet. You know the miracle? Everything's a miracle. Miracle, miracle. And I'm sitting there, and Earl calls me on my phone. And if your sponsor calls you, even if you're doing like brain surgery, you put a towel on the head, you answer your phone. And Earl says, meet me at the corner of Ventura and Reseda. So, Forrest Gump, okay, right? Go over there. There's Earl standing there in the middle of a parking lot, and he's holding this big envelope. And I'm still driving the truck that I used to drink in. It's got whiskey wrinkles all over it, and it's parked way in the back because I'm embarrassed. And I come up to Earl, and I go, what's up, man? How you doing? And he goes, this is for you. And I go, well, what's that? He said, open it and find out. That's how Earl talks, right? Open it up. It's a big stack of money. He says, it says, this is an anonymous gift. Keep it or pass it on. Dude, I don't deserve, low self-esteem. What's this? He goes, oh, that's not for me. Earl says, this is not for me. You know all those people you thought wouldn't pee on you if you're on fire? They found out about you, Danny. Your home group cares about you. They found out you couldn't pay your rent, and they didn't want you to leave because they love you. And I started getting emotional with a man in a parking lot in the daytime. So I gave him one of those quick hugs, and I ran away. And as I ran away, he said the most important thing anybody's ever said to me in my life. He said, Danny, he said, you're part of something now. And the dam broke. Oh, God. Get in my car. I'm holding onto this piece of paper, and I'm holding it. I'm trying to start my car. I start driving home, and I'm crying so hard that I can't even drive. I'm on Ventura Boulevard, and this little lady is next to me. Cars are honking at me to drive. And she goes, are you okay, dear? And I said, I'm part of something. Oh! And I went home, and I sat on my little bed, man, in the corner, and tears were just falling down my cheek, and they were landing on this piece of paper that represented something that I was a part of. And it said that you can do this thing, Danny. You can do this, and you can carry this message, and it'll matter that you've lived. And I want you to tell you once again, if you're new, that you're part of something too. Thanks a lot. Have a good convention.